Welcome to We Need to Talk Now. I am Alicia J, and as always, I am here with Ashley Nicole Moss, and we are here to talk all things WNBA free agency. I don't know about you, Ashley, but I am tired keeping up with all of the movement and hasn't even really started yet, but things are coming at us left and right. I mean, right before we came on here, Stewie dropped some new emojis, and that is crazy. She always drops those messages. We're trying to figure out what's happening. So something is about to happen in New York. We don't know what it is yet, but we know it's on the way because Stewie dropped it. And we're here to talk all about the stuff that is happening, everything, the movement that is happening in WNBA free agency right now here on We Need to Talk Now.
Right. And before we get into any of that, we have to remind you to keep it locked with us every Tuesday. Right now it's Friday. This is a very special edition of the show on CBS Sports Network, but we are dropping new episodes every Tuesday, but you can't figure that out and you won't know where to find it unless you are tapped all the way in. So make sure your subscriptions are turned all the way up and you follow us on YouTube. That's where we drop full length interviews, previous episodes, and also tap in with us on social media. We're on all the platforms. And if you are more of a podcast listener and you like to do that so you have your hands free, we're also wherever you get your favorite podcast. That is on Spotify and Apple. And there will be a QR code at the end of the show that you can scan that will help us locate or help you locate us as easily as possible. And Alicia, you teased a little bit of this WNBA free agency, just madness, craziness, whatever you want to call it. But before we get into that, we have some very special news that we just want to share. And I think this is a good introduction to all things basketball that we're going to talk about on this very show. The WNBA announced that there is a star-filled investor group, including my GOAT, Candace Parker. And my other GOAT, this is actually really cool, Peyton Manning is also one of my favorite quarterbacks, or my favorite quarterback of all time. They're just a few of the people that are going to be involved with bringing a W team to Nashville. And it is really cool, too, because it is expected that the biggest name is what the team's name could possibly be. And that is going to be named possibly after Pat Summitt. So the Tennessee Summit could be the fourth expansion team coming to the W. And as you know, Pat Summitt, just an absolute icon in women's basketball as a whole. Candace Parker has a very special relationship with her specifically, and what she meant not only to the program at Tennessee, but just to women's basketball as a whole, is you can't even put it into words. So this would be a very beautiful way to honor her.
Definitely a beautiful way. And let me tell you, I'm all in. One of the things about this is obviously you're naming the team after a legend. Anyone would want to be a part of that, right? An absolute legend. But then on top of that, you've already given us the logo, the name, the look, the feel. And it makes me really want to cheer for the team already. Like, I already feel like I could wear the merch. And so I think that this was a very smart move by this investor group to basically give us a team without even having a team yet, because I want to see it, Ashley. I want to see it for sure.
And hopefully we will. So while we wait to see if the Tennessee Summit will come into fruition, and if anyone could do it, it's Candace Parker and Peyton Manning. I mean, come on. Tomorrow marks the first day of February, which means it's the official first day of WNBA free agency. And as Alicia alluded to at the top of the show, it's already been chaotic. We have seen some movement. Now, as you know, nothing has been officially signed, sealed, and delivered because legally they are unable to do that. But we kind of have an idea of who's going where based on some leaks, some sources. You know how this goes. So we are going to start with none other than Brittany Griner, who I had a chance to watch at the Unrivaled League recently. And she's joining the Atlanta Dream, Alicia. As of now, again, it's not signed, sealed, and delivered yet. But if all goes according to plan, she will be joining the Atlanta Dream. And she had a very creative way of letting us know exactly where she was going and who her new teammates were going to be. It's very Miami, if you will. Check this out.
Very Miami.
We are out fishing right now. We got Jordan Canada.
What's up?
Ryan Alicia Gray. right here. Boom, boom. Well, I actually messed up on my intro. I need to introduce my new teammates because I will be joining the Atlanta Dream.
Now, Brittany Griner will be joining Brianna Jones, who already let us know that she also will be signing with the Dream. So now this roster has two of the most dynamic players that the W has ever seen, two of the most efficient players in the game currently. Alicia, this was very surprising. It kind of took everyone's minding their business, eating dinner, whatever it is that you're doing. I think I was at a Pilates class and something, and I get a text from you and it's this. And I'm just like, I was gone for 50 minutes. It's a 50-minute class. What do you make of this?
Right. This took everybody by storm. They literally were just not expecting this from BG, especially going to the Dream. But I love the move. I think she looks so happy in that video. And I also want to say that this is part of the Unrivaled effect that you're seeing right now. When you see she's already with her teammates, right? She's already around them, already bonding with them because they're all in the same area, talking, getting ready for the season. And that is one of the most important things about Unrivaled to me is just those connections that are being made there that are going to make all of the WNBA teams better in the future. So when you see that, you're seeing a direct byproduct of what Unrivaled is doing. And I love to see it. I really do love to see it. But when you look at the two players that the Dream have on the way, and then you add it to the talent that they already have, a lot of people were saying that this is not adding up with what they're saying they want their style of play to be. They're saying that they want their style of play to be fast-paced and innovative style of play. And they're saying these players aren't necessarily fast-paced. But when you have a chance to get these two players, you don't pass up on it. I don't care what you've said about your style of play. So I love the moves that they're making. Shout out to Renee Montgomery, who's on We Need to Talk. They are doing some amazing things, and I just can't wait to see what the team does with it next season.
Yeah, like I said, two of the most efficient players in the game right now. So efficiency sometimes overrides speed in every way possible. And we spoke about this when we talked about Unrivaled and what could possibly be transpiring in the locker room during these games while these women are just hanging out with each other in the 305. We expected this very thing to happen, and we're going to continue seeing this as free agency continues. And we're going to continue the conversation right now because I saw a graphic earlier today on Twitter, and it showed the Connecticut Sun starting lineup, and it had X's on every face but one. Alyssa Thomas is now a player who will no longer be with the Connecticut Sun because it is reported that the Phoenix Mercury are finalizing a trade to acquire the 5-time All-Star. The Sun will receive Natasha Cloud, Rebecca Allen, and the 2025 number 12 overall pick from the Mercury, and will send Ty Harris to Phoenix. Alicia, the Sun are a team that a lot of people, W fans, expected to try to keep their core together because they look so competitive this past season. The season before that, they just had a hard time getting over that final hump. This is surprising.
It is surprising, but what's not surprising is Alyssa Thomas going somewhere like the Mercury. She said in an Unrivaled press conference, and we're bringing them up again, but in a press conference, she said that I want to go someplace that's going to take care of me. I want to go to a place that's not going to have a practice where half of the practice is a birthday party for someone and then we get half the court. She was very adamant about that. And so you're going to Phoenix that has this state of the art. I mean, amazing facilities, right? They take care of you in every way. And you have an amazing team that you're going to as well. I think one thing that's going to be really interesting to see is what happens with Diana Taurasi, for sure. And then also, DeWanna Bonner, an amazing, phenomenal player in her own right. Also, she's the fiance to Alyssa Thomas. And so they were together on the Sun, and it'll be really interesting to see if she also comes to Phoenix. So a lot of things to look out for there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to touch upon Kelsey Mitchell when we come back because there is more chaos that is this WNBA free agency. When we get back, Kelsey Mitchell, Kelsey Plum, the list goes on and on. We are not done. We are just getting started. So don't touch that dial.
And welcome back to We Need to Talk Now. Before we went into the break, Ashley said we're going to talk about Kelsey Mitchell, and we are, because the two-time All-Star has re-signed with the Indiana Fever. I mean, I personally am really, really happy about this. They threw her kind of like a celebration to come back, Ashley. She was walking up the corridor with all of the people from the Fever on either side, just welcoming her back. And then at the end, she gave Caitlin Clark a hug. And I just feel like when you see that hug with them together, that you're seeing just kind of like the start of even more of the Fever. You know, the Fever made the playoffs, which was amazing in this last season. And they have this really strong young core of players, obviously with Caitlin Clark, but you know, also they added Natasha Howard today as well, which was a huge get for Indiana. When you look at all of the players that they have, you know, all of the players from Boston, obviously Mitchell, Clark, now Natasha Howard, what do you think about this upcoming season for the Fever with all of the movement that they've had in free agency so far?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, when we talk about the Fever, we talk about a team that a lot of people at a certain point of the season really started taking seriously, right? I think that there was always an expectation. Yes, you had Caitlin Clark, and she's one of the best we've seen, especially coming in as a rookie and the way she's been able to dominate. But she's still a rookie, and there's still a learning curve when you go from the collegiate game to the professional game. So I think that people had high expectations for Caitlin Clark, but I don't know if those expectations then trickled down to what she was going to be able to do with this Fever team. They were able to break into the playoffs. We saw that they were a team that when we spoke about, said, hey, if you have to run into the Fever, they're not going to make it easy for you. They may not win the whole thing, but they're going to make you work. And I think that that little taste of success, and I'm going to put that in quotations, I think just made this organization say, we need to capitalize off of this moment and the talent that we have. And how can we do that to ensure that last year wasn't a fluke and we just continue this trajectory and get better and better every season, especially when we have the star that is Caitlin Clark. This is a phenomenal move, and I expect this team to only get better in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and then you have a new coach, Stephanie White, which everybody absolutely loves. They have touted that they love that she is the head coach of this team. And then with Natasha, you bring a veteran and you bring a defensive presence that they definitely need. So they're only adding amazing things, including an amazing state-of-the-art facility. We see this with every team. It's happening, and it should have already happened, let's be clear. But everybody is catching on. So you know, there's nothing but an upside for the Indiana Fever. Really excited about that movement. Now, Ashley, there was a move that happened that involved your New York Liberty. Sloot, actually, yesterday, in her bio, she changed that she's going to the Chicago Sky. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, she's going back to a place that she was at for a lot of years, but did you expect any movement from the New York Liberty? And did you expect her to go back to the Sky?
I did not expect her to go back to the Sky. And to answer the first question, did I expect movement? Yes and no. I think that when you win a championship, the goal is to win another one and another one and another one, right? And I don't mean to sound like DJ Khaled, but it just happened to go that way. Another one. But I think that in order to do that, it's a weird balance between keeping the chemistry, but also getting more competitive. And you expect a championship team to try to keep as many of the valuable pieces that led to the championship as possible, while also getting more competitive, because now other teams are gunning for you. You have a target on your back. So I expected there to be movement. I just don't know if I expected this particular piece of movement. We obviously are very sad to see her go in New York, But I think the Liberty are hungry and they don't want just one championship. They want several. And this is an organization that has waited a very long time to hoist up a trophy. And they're not trying to go that same amount of time to hoist up the next one. So that's the nature of the beast.
Well, and if there's any indication that there may be some more movement with the Liberty, listen, Stewie, as I said at the top of the show, drop some emojis. And when she does that, that means something is happening. So we definitely are going to keep tabs on that. And who knows, it could be Satou Sabally because she is a huge player in this whole free agency. She actually asked for she didn't ask for a trade. She actually said, I played my last game in a Wings uniform already. In one of the pressers for Unrivaled, she said that, made it very plain and very clear. And one of the destinations that she said to be visiting are the New York Liberty. Another would be the Phoenix Mercury. People really don't know where she's going to go. Where do you think would be a great fit for Satou? Like, we have no idea really right now, but where do you think it would be great for her to end up?
Well, I mean, we already have a Sabally in New York, so that would be kind of cool. That'd be a cool little movement. I think she wants to go someplace where she can win and make an immediate impact. I think that especially seeing her Unrivaled as well, the last game that I attended, she has just a different fire about her that I don't think that we have seen from her. And not because she is unable to play, but I just think maybe her desire to play in Dallas maybe was dwindling before we even knew it. I can tell you right now, watching her in Unrivaled, she has a tenacity about her, an aggressiveness about her, a desire about her to compete. And the way that she looks, almost, if you ever forgot that Satou was a hooper, you were reminded at Unrivaled, like, oh, okay, this girl is a baller. And I think it's that new mindset, whatever has caused that, is making her want to bring her talents elsewhere. I just think she wants to go someplace she can, one, make an immediate impact, and two, win a championship.
Definitely. And that would be a great fit for sure. It would be interesting to see if the Mercury can also bring her in with all of the movement that they've had there. So I don't know. We're going to have to keep tabs on this for sure. And another person that we are watching closely is Nneka Ogwumike. She has said on a podcast, as a matter of fact, on a Touch More podcast with Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird, that I am looking for a team that has a head coach that I am connected to, a practice facility, great engagement when it comes from ownership, management that's on top of it. I mean, Seattle has all of those things. So from that quote, a lot of people are surmising that she is going to stay with the Storm, and they have had an interesting set of moves that we're going to be talking about in the next segment for sure. But what do you think about her staying with Seattle?
Listen, Seattle is going through some changes, and I'm not surprised, but I'm a little bit surprised, and you guys will find out why in just a second, because speaking of the Seattle Storm, there is a blockbuster trade that has yet to be official, but it's pretty much official. Including one of the premier stars of the Seattle Storm, who also had a lawsuit against the Seattle Storm, and one of the Aces' core pieces that is going to take her talents a little further west to LA. I'm going to let you sit on that for a little bit. Maybe you can guess if you're not already sure, but we will discuss it all when we come back after the break.
And we're back at We Need to Talk Now. And as Ashley talked about in the last segment, we have a blockbuster trade that we need to talk all about that sent Kelsey Plum to the Sparks and Jewell Loyd to the Aces. So you can see right here that the Aces receive Jewell Loyd, the number 13th pick in the 2025 draft. The LA Sparks receive Kelsey Plum and the number 9th pick in the 2025 draft. And in 2026, the second round pick from Seattle. And then this is the big one right here. The Seattle Storm receive Leroux from the Sparks, and then the number 2 pick in the 2025 draft and a 2026 first round pick from Las Vegas. So many moving parts in this, Ashley. I mean, there's so much conversation that has happened around this so far. It definitely took everybody by surprise. Who do you think won when it comes to this?
I hate this question. It's like my least favorite question. I think that the Sparks won immediately. The Storm won in the long run because of that number 2 pick. That's hefty. Um, I would say the Aces lost the most out of the 3 of these teams. And also just looking at the totality of the Aces offseason as a whole. I mean, multiple coaches from their coaching staff have moved on. Now you have Kelsey Plum, you have Kate Martin, who was a fan favorite. Kelsey Plum was such an intricate part of winning those championships. So they've gone through a lot of turnover. And we already talked about this team specifically when it came to the fear that they used to strike in other franchises across the league and how that's changed. And you saw them be more mortal, if you will, more beatable. And I think that it's going to take a lot for this Aces team to kind of regain that magic because with all this movement, teams are getting better. Teams are getting more competitive and they're ready to compete for that chip. I think the Sparks are looking for, no pun intended, a spark to, revitalize the organization and really get back to the days where they were constantly winning. I will say I am surprised though, because Cameron Brink, as we know, we spoke about this on Monday, injured herself in June. Now she is expected to be ready by the All-Star break, not so much by training camp. So you would think they would go after a little bit more size to help with her absence. But we already know what Kelsey Plum can do on both sides of the court. She's dedicated offensively and defensively. But that number 2 pick, Alicia, woo, that's gonna be interesting. That's the one right there for me.
Definitely the one. And when you look at what the Seattle Storm really had to go through with this, Loyd, she said, "Hey, I want to be traded." She kind of forced that hand, right? And so to see like what they turn lemons into lemonade in a lot of ways, like you get that pick, you get an amazing player in Lee. Like she's a good player. She's a really good center that is getting better like every year, in my opinion. So you get a really good player. You have a bunch of other pieces that you're moving around, and you already have, Skylar Diggins-Smith, and you have Nneka, and you have a really good base in a team. And also, just playing with the Storm, they have that facility that they have. They have fans that are amazing. They really came out, in my opinion, on top. But when you look at the overall trade, there's a lot of balance there for me. I know that you talked about the Aces and how they have a lot of movement going on and a lot of complexities. But Jewel knows most of the players on that team. She has played with a lot of them during the Olympics. There is a lot of already like built-in chemistry there. They also need more size, and she's a little bit a bigger of a player in that position. So I don't know. I think it is a good move by them too. I mean, she's an amazing player. A lot of people, I don't want to say they forgot, but with all the stuff that was going on with the Storm last year, they kind of forgot that she's an amazing player too. She's phenomenal. So I think her style of play, I think with all the players that she's playing with the chemistry that they're going to have, they're going to be good. I mean, are they going to be the team that they
good? Yeah, I mean,
Right.
They're always going to be good. It's the Aces. They didn't win all those championships by accident, to your point. Jewel having already a camaraderie and a relationship with so many of the players. I look at it more from an organizational standpoint. Losing a handful of coaches from multiple different positions in your coaching staff is tough. Those coaches know the
Definitely.
ins and outs of the organization. They know the ins and the outs of the players. And that's what you want from your coaching staff. You want that just complete, exclusive, just roundabout in totality, if you will, of understanding how the organization works and what it needs in order to achieve success. So that for me is the toughest part of what the Aces have gone through. Jewel, phenomenal player, but it's also just losing the pieces that make the X's and the O's work. That is going to be the most interesting part when we look at how this team is going to bounce back from that.
Definitely. Interesting on every level. You're not going to get any argument from me there. But I think when it comes to actually what went down in this trade, and the player that they got, I think it was a good move for the Aces for sure. And then when it comes to the Sparks, I mean, you have a young, talented team there that is going to have, in a lot of ways, a veteran in Kelsey Plum. She's going to be back home. Her energy is there. She's going to be reunited with Dearica Hamby, her really good friend. So, I mean, there's just so many pieces there, too. So when I look at the totality of the trade, I mean, it was good on all fronts, in my opinion.
Yeah, at least for now. It's all going back, taken to the NBA for a second. Everyone thought the Knicks lost the Karl Anthony Towns trade because they got Julius Randle and, Dante DiVincenzo, and everyone was like, the Knicks lost the trade. Well, the Knicks won that trade, and the standings show that the Knicks won that trade. And Karl Anthony Towns' numbers, shout out to the All-Star, show that we won the trade. So I say I hate that question because I'm not psychic. I just pretend to think I am one. And you really don't know who's won a trade until games start being played. I think on paper, everything looks, lollipops and gumdrops, and you won, and you won, and you won. Not all that goes out the window once that game is played and those games start being played and you start looking at records and you start looking at losses and you start looking at everything else that goes into just winning in the WNBA. That is going to be the real testament of who won and who lost this particular trade for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely see how it all pans out. When you even think about who they can pick up with that, second pick, like that movement is going to be very interesting as well. And who they add in this free agency. I mean, we haven't even technically started this thing yet. And there's so much movement, so many surprises, and so many things that, I mean, there's no doubt that all of these teams are going to be adding a little bit more to this pot that we already see right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of pot and movement, we know one player that's not going to be moving and going anywhere anytime soon, and that is Caitlin Clark. And she is in the news because Caitlin just wants to be Caitlin and be out of the spotlight. Stop asking her to do things. And the most recent thing she turned down, we know Unrivaled. She said, not this year, maybe next year. I definitely want to play in it eventually, just not right now. And there was another request that she turned down. We're not going to give it away just yet. We're going to make you come back after the break because we are going to be discussing what Caitlin Clark turned down and whether or not it was the right decision. So don't move. We'll be right back. Welcome back to We Need to Talk Now, and we love being with you right here on CBS Sports Network. So we have to remind you that although we're not always on this network, we are always on YouTube, social media, audio, wherever it is you like to go ahead and listen to your podcast, you can find us there. So make sure you have your notifications turned up, you're subscribed, you're following, do all of the things, as Alicia likes to say, so that you don't miss a minute of We Need to Talk Now. And speaking of missing a minute, Caitlin Clark is going to be missing a minute of, or lots of minutes of, this year's 3-point contest at the NBA All-Star Game in San Francisco. As we know, last year, it was Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu who went against each other, and it was a high-rated contest. Everybody loved it. Social media was trending about it, and it did really well. So the NBA was trying to recreate that magic, and who else to recreate that magic with than Caitlin Clark herself? Well, Caitlin said, thanks, but no thanks. Now, we spoke about this, Alicia and I, in our production meeting yesterday, rather. I'm losing the track of the days. We keep talking about how long the month of January is, but We keep talking also about Caitlin Clark and how she's been turning things down. And as you can imagine, she probably wants to rest. It was a whirlwind of a rookie season for her between just breaking records and endorsement deals and all the conversation that surrounds her stardom. And the WNBA All-Star Game actually is held in Indianapolis this year in July. So it had people talking all throughout the sports world, whether or not Caitlin was saving herself for that, whether or not Caitlin made the right decision by not going against whoever she'd be facing in the three-point competition at NBA All-Star. And Alicia has her own take that she shared with me. So I'm going to give her the floor before I rebuttal and let her share with you what she shared with me. Alicia, I know what you're thinking,
Ashley,
but let the people know what you're thinking.
You already know I'm very passionate about this, and I am 1000% for Caitlin Clark not doing this. I think making the decision to bring it back to the W is amazing on every level. I applaud her. Round of applause. Why not bring those ratings, those eyes, everything to the W platform, to the All-Star game for the WNBA? And not only that, you're bringing it in front of a crowd. You know, she has brought millions of fans into the Indiana Fever. I mean, people have been coming to see her. Why not honor that and do this in front of your home crowd? You know, it is such an amazing moment. And I think that, you know, why not do that? And also, I love the move because she does need some rest. You know, all of those players that came straight from college and literally haven't gotten a moment of rest, she's one of them. You know, getting ready for the W season, which is your season, right? And making sure that you're ready for that and focusing on that, I'm all for it. I think this move is amazing on every level. And I just, you know, what my thoughts are, Ashley, and I don't know how you feel about this. What about an NBA player coming to the WNBA and doing what Sabrina did for the NBA All-Star? Like, what do you think about that?
I think it would be great. Obviously, in July, it's Summer League, and that's where a lot of guys go to support rookies and you know, guys who are trying to make the team and stuff like that. So it depends on when the weekend specifically is, but I absolutely love that idea. I mean, if it was what's good for the goose has to be good for the gander, you know what I mean? And I think that it showcased that merging the two worlds when it makes sense, like something the three-point competition or the contest rather, is the perfect way to show that both of these leagues are unified and both of these leagues respect one another and both of these leagues have talent that may not be able to compete against each other night in and night out. But if you like to watch Steph Curry shoot three-pointers and you can see that Sabrina can hold her own against one of the greatest, if not the greatest, I should say the greatest, because he is the greatest three-point shooter we've ever seen in the NBA game, then why wouldn't you want to keep that same energy for the W? My whole thing is like, hey, if you can compete with the best in the NBA, that means that you're pretty dang good. And I think that that would shut down a lot of critics who like to still to this day think of the women's game as the inferior game, the inferior league, the inferior sport, the inferior pool of talent. And I think every single time we find a way to merge the two worlds together, show that the level of talent, although not identical, because there's differences between men and women, but when we talk about the fundamentals of basketball, the similarities are more there than they are not. And the more times that we can show that to the masses and the people who are still doubters of the WNBA and the women who are in the WNBA and women basketball players as a whole, I think the further we can chip away at changing the narrative that surrounds women's sports, specifically women's basketball.
I mean, I think we've changed the narrative a lot, Ashley, and I think that, yeah, there is room for that. But I think there's time for Caitlin Clark. She doesn't necessarily need to do that right now, you know? I think there's time.
Sleep.
I think her to
like dang.
Let her sleep, but also let her make her mark. She's already made her mark in every single way, right? there's nothing that she really hasn't done already, but let her, establish herself even further in the W and bring that moment, that very special moment, her first time doing it, bring it back to the W. I think that that is something that I definitely am excited that she did and excited to see. So,
And I think that to your point, doing it in front of your home crowd and doing it for the league that has not only inspired you, but that you have been such an instrumental part in changing for the better is just a storybook. Now, I don't want to use the word ending, but it's a storybook chapter in the career of Caitlin Clark. And I'm not saying it wouldn't still be special to see her go against Damian Lillard or Steph Curry at the NBA All-Star game, but I just think that Caitlin has done so much in such a short amount of time for this league, and she's always talking about the women who inspired her to even be in this position. She's done so much for the collegiate women's collegiate basketball as a whole, that I just feel like this is the perfect moment for her to not only give back to that community, but also showcase that this community, this league is headed in such an amazing direction. The trajectory is so high and the ceiling is so high, and it's going to continue to get special, and it's going to continue to grow, and it's going to continue to get more of an imprint and an impact in the world of sports as a whole, that I just feel like it just makes more sense from a sentimental standpoint. And if you want to take the business and all that stuff out, from a sentimental standpoint, it just makes more sense for her to do it in Indianapolis at WNBA All-Star than it does for the men. Men can't have everything. Like, dang.
No. And also there are other players in the W that also should be going to NBA All-Star and participating in this 3-point contest. One that comes to mind is Alicia Gray. She is the reigning 3-point champ for the WNBA. Like, she should have that stage as well. So come on, like, holler at her.
I like to see her in there because I saw her at Unrivaled and she was draining them threes.
Okay. But it'll be really interesting. Nah, she phenomenal on every level. But it'll be interesting to see who they do call upon, because I still think that it's a great moment to have. We saw it last year, amazing moment to have, not only for ratings, but just for, like you said, the merging of the two leagues. But it'll be interesting to see who they do pick for that. There's a lot of women that they should consider and select. But we are going to be back. We've been talking about All-Star, but we have a star of the week, Ashley, that we want to talk about that had a moment this week that is far bigger than anything in basketball. So when we come back on We Need to Talk Now, we will be highlighting our star of the week and why it's so important that we talk about what she did.
Welcome back to We Need to Talk Now. And before the break, we tease our star of the week. And this week, it is none other than Tennessee basketball coach Kim Caldwell, who returned to coaching just 1 week. Yes, you heard that correctly. 1 week after giving birth. I'm still speechless, Alicia. I don't even, just phenomenal. I can't.
Yeah, it is truly phenomenal on every level. I mean, that is an understatement. And the particular game that she came back to was when the Lady Vols played the Gamecocks. And in the presser after the game, Coach Dawn Staley had something to say, and we definitely need to listen to it. I mean, she encapsulated everything. It's like we couldn't say it better. So let's listen to what Dawn had to say after this game.
Women have the strength of 10 men. No doubt about it. I think she's very passionate about her team and coaching here. I think she's got them off to a great start. Very exciting brand of basketball. And when you have a coach that really wants to, hang another banner, it comes as a sacrifice. She's probably a better woman than me. I don't know if I could be detached from my little one for that long, but she's got great help. And she wanted to be here with her team. So, I mean, women have to make decisions like that. And when they do, I feel like other women should honor them and let them know that we see you, we feel you, we hear you, and I congratulate her. But it's gonna take a lot of people to have that work-life balance that's needed when you have a newborn child.
I mean, side note, with Coach Sabally, like if I had some more eligibility, I'd play for her right now. But that's just a side note. But, you know, when you look at what Coach Caldwell did, it is truly phenomenal. She is a better woman than me because I don't know if I could do it. She walked into a sold out crowd of over 12,000 people for this game, gave her a standing ovation, which they absolutely should. And Coach Caldwell said, it's hard to leave your little one, but then you missed your team and you kind of feel like you were just not there for them. So to be back and to be around them and to just be back in your routine is good. I mean, Ashley, when you think about this, what does it mean to have a coach come back in this little bit of time? I mean, not even really a full week after giving birth.
One, I didn't even know that a doctor would even approve that or so. Like I didn't even know that was possible. But it just speaks to, and I agree with what Dawn said, it speaks to the power of women. And whether you're a coach or not, I think that all women who have children or want to have children one day have struggled with this balance, this work-life balance, if you will, of being there for your family, but also not being there for your job and not being dedicated to that. And it's the constant balance of trying to give 100% to both parties and both sides of your life. And I know growing up, my mom was a working mom, and, you know, seeing her rush into aftercare to pick me up after rushing and you know, through rush hour in New York City to get on the train, to get there in time, to make dinner, to help me with my homework, just to do it again the next day. I mean, women are incredible and they have to balance, and we have to balance such we have more balance that we have in life than I think men have to deal with. And obviously there are stay-at-home dads and exceptions to the rule, but I always feel like the burden is always on women to find that balance. You know, men have the luxury, especially if they're still with the person they have children with, to focus on just a singular task and focus on being the breadwinner, and women have to spread themselves thin in so many ways. And it can be exhausting and you can feel like you're failing in some way, shape, or form. So this just speaks to how powerful women are to power through that, and just the very real dynamic of having to do it.
Yeah, I will say this, you know, it was definitely her choice to come back, and I honor that as what Coach Sabally said. But I do hope that there is a time where women in any field don't feel the pressure to come back, because it is such an amazing time with your little one. So, you know, it's an amazing moment for women to give birth, or it's an amazing moment for your family, for everybody. And I just hope that nobody feels that pressure to come back in this way, even though I do honor that she did.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're honoring her. We're honoring all women who are currently balancing being a mother and being a businesswoman, whatever that business may be. And we obviously thank you all for joining us on this very special edition of We Need to Talk Now here on CBS Sports Network. As I said at the beginning of the show, make sure you are subscribed, notifications turned all the way up so you can catch us on YouTube. Follow us on social media and scan this QR code right here so we can pop up wherever you get your pods. We're on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. So there's no reason to not be tapped in with us right here at We Need to Talk Now.